Well, what happened was there was a talent agency in Seattle named Terry. I'm not even sure if it's still around anymore. It was called Terry Talent, and I was trying to submit with them, and I had called, and I got a voicemail. Said they were looking for extras to be in a feature film called Black Circle Boys. So I left a message, and someone called me back. Said they would use me, but they were shooting tomorrow, and I had to bring swimwear, and they would get me the address later. So I showed up the next day. What happened was there was a guy there that was cast to be the swim team captain, but he had a Spider-Man tattoo on his back. So they immediately dismissed him because that's a trademark, and he was pretty pissed. So they decided I should play the swim team captain, and although I didn't have any lines or anything, I was just presented as the captain in a shot that they never wound up using. And we just did a lot of swimming that day, and I never swam competitively, so I was pretty sore by the end of the day. And then there's the one where he first met Chloe, Tara Subkoff's character. And believe me, let me tell you, we were all checking her out that day. That morning we shot the pool scene. It was very cold and foggy, and they would take us out of the pool and put us in the hot tub between takes. But that actually made it worse, because then we didn't want to get back in the pool. The very last scene where he comes out of the water, and the scene where he and Tara are at that swimming pool, those were shot the same day. Later that day, they wrapped us, and then they went to some apartments that were like a mile away and shot that there. The swimming scene stayed in, but there was a shot that they had where we were all lined up, and I was off to the side, the captain, and that shot didn't get used. They had called me to do some high school stuff, but I couldn't do it because of my regular job. The only reason I was able to do that swimming scene was because it was shot on a Saturday, which in the film world is unusual when you shoot on a weekend because of the overtime. But that was why I was able to do that. There was a photographer there with the local paper that I talked to, and he did a story, and I went up there and I got a couple of the newspapers when they came out, but that's all I've got. The high school scenes were shot in Mount Lake Terrace. The crew was really small. I think it was like maybe 12 or 15 people. They had a single camera, a lot of natural light. They didn't set up any lights. They just used natural light. Once I got to the set and I saw how small the crew was, and like the way they were shooting, everything was very handheld. They didn't get a lot of coverage. I kind of thought this was going to be a straight-to-video thing. I talked to David Newsom, who played the coach. He was kind of a smart-ass guy. If you look in the scene, there's some of those flags that are hanging. Between takes, he was like doing karate kicks and kicking them, and he's making jokes about how bad we were as swimmers. He was pretty nice. Scott, I talked to briefly. He said hi to me. He kind of kept to himself. He smoked a lot. Like I would say he's probably a 2 or 3 pack a day smoker from what I saw. As far as what happened later with Scott Bairstow, I can't speak to that or anything, but he was a pretty friendly guy. Did keep to himself, smoked a lot. I wish I could have worked with Eric Mabius. That would have been cool. And the guy that what's his name, that played Rory.
Shut the fuck up, Fairy. All right?
Yeah, well, he went on to have a really good career. Well, I do know they shot a lot of the movie in the rain. That's pretty much the practice in film is they got to keep their schedule, so they will shoot in the rain. Lightning's the only thing that'll stop a production. But one other thing you can notice, it's obviously a low-budget movie, but if you watch the scene where Scott's character Kyle and Chloe are talking at the lockers, if you look at the extras passing by in the foreground, it's like the same 5 or 6 extras just crossing back and forth. It's really funny if you notice it. Yeah, they're trying to make the school look like it's more filled than it really was. Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges. And it took, I think it was like 3 years before it got released. I was in Blockbuster one day in summer of '99, and I just happened to see it on the new release shelf. I had forgotten about it, waiting for so long to come out. Yeah. And then I later bought a copy on DVD. And I actually talked to the director years later, Matthew Carnahan, who's married to Helen Hunt. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, is this thing ever going to get a Blu-ray release?" And he's like, "No, probably not." Because the DVD quality is not great. The colors are washed out. The sound's not that good. Yeah, no, he's pretty receptive to his fans. He actually signed my Black Circle Boys DVD for me, the cover. He even sent me a handwritten note too. I'll take a picture of him and send him to you.
I love the father. Come on! I love the father. Now you get your tattoo. No! You don't fuck with the Black Circle.
I like it. I like the based on a true story, Ricky Casso, which I didn't know at the time. I learned about later, but they did tell us on set it was based on a true story.
A quiet community rocked by reports a teenager was dragged through these woods toward a late-night ritual of death. An eyewitness said the victim, Gary Lowers, was forced to pray to Satan as he was repeatedly stabbed to death. 2 young men were arrested. James Troiano was found innocent last month, but his alleged accomplice never made it to trial. Ricky Casso committed suicide in jail the day after his arrest.
You know what? I really think that the movie was successful. The performances were good, and it really captured the feeling of that time in Seattle. I mean, it really encapsulated it.